Hey guys, episode 3. Still in a pandemic, still politically divided, and while I'm going to talk about that stuff a little bit, it is not going to be the focus of today's episode. That's like all we've been focused on for going on a year, and it's starting to create a different kind of sickness, a very cyclical type of thinking that's pitting people against one another. And moving forward, it's going to have pretty serious consequences on how we view each other, trust each other, respect each other, and just the overall way we view the world. So it is important. But I would argue that my topic today is even more important, or I hope to have you convinced of that by the end of the episode. Simply put, it is committing to an act of joy, or just understanding joy, but doing it every single day. Do you know what joy is? Do you have one thing that you can do for sure every day, and you know what it is, and you do actually love it, and it brings you joy? Do you know what the benefits are of doing it every day, of being someone that understands how to experience joy? There are so many benefits of it and how it leaches out onto literally everything else in your life. So personally, it kind of gives you a defensive armor, a layer between you and all that BS. And I mean, I guess it's not BS. These are important things going on. But it protects you a little bit from the weight of it and feeling dread and the fear and the uncertainty. Committing to joy at least once a day is giving your brain a break from all that. And, you know, it's not something like a lot of people, especially the older we get, the harder it is for us to commit to these things because we feel like there's something else that we should be doing that's more important. Or we carry a tremendous amount of guilt going into this thing that would have normally used to bring us joy. But because we're doing it, you know, when other people are not, and there's just so many reasons that we tend to feel guilty when we do it, that the older we get, we eventually just stop. And it's literally the worst thing that can happen to you. And as far as like that excuse I hear all the time, if I don't have time, my work doesn't allow for it, or, you know, my work is going to suffer if I. Okay, let's ask Google what they think of that. Their facilities that they house their employees in have climbing walls, trampolines, skateboards, electric scooters, and they force you to experience joy and to be someone who's enthusiastically and passionately engaged with their work. And they know through extensive research, it's Google, that the happier and more passionate and more joy-filled the employee, the better that value, the more value that employee brings to their company. That's not just like some happenstance lucky thing they figured out. No, an extensive amount of research went into figuring out that you are way more valuable as a joyful, enthusiastic, passionate person. This carries out and extends to literally anything. If you're experiencing joy, even in something that like, I'm gonna just bring me up right away. This weird thing that I do that not a lot of people know about. I guess more are now because I'm doing it more. But I'm a rollerblader. And I know that in a lot of minds, that has a lot of different imagery. You know, maybe for some of the older people, they see like tight spandex or lycra and some speed skating down the street. And that's not it. You know, there's a whole bunch of versions of rollerbladers that exist in here. When I was a kid, I was a sponsored skater who went to competitions and rode for some people. You know, and it was something that's been a big part of my life since I was 12. But you know, as I got older, you know, I became, again, I needed to be that well-oiled cog in the machine, be able to show up to work healthy, uninjured. And so a lot of what people told me, I started to listen to in my mid-20s. You know, you shouldn't be doing this. It's too risky. It's dangerous, blah, 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 blah. And yeah, I guess, you know, I mean, thinking about what they were cautioning me against was technically true. But what I lost by giving it up and what it did to my value that I could bring in anything, whether I worked for somebody or I am an entrepreneur, my wife and I own 3 different businesses, but I would not be nearly as good at the problem solving and the critical thinking and the thinking outside the box and the creativity. None of that would be there the way it is if I never had rollerblading in my life. Huh? Why? How's that possible? Well, a lot of people, most people were brought up this way, tend to value things based on their monetary value, by how much money is there for that thing, right? So if I spend 20,000 hours getting so precise and strong and my athleticism is so honed in on a specific trick, but it took 10, 20,000 hours, is it more or less the same value as the PhD, MD surgeon hour for hour, I don't know. I mean, who was more focused? I don't know. I mean, who's better at taking tests? I don't know. I mean, however much time someone spends on something gets them usually better and better and better at said thing. Now, if I spend 20,000 hours and am seen as a pro rollerblader, or if I spend 20,000 hours and am seen as an MD, what does society view as more important? What is society going to value more? I think obviously most everyone's going to go the doctor. What good is a rollerblader? Well, let me tell you, it's not just the rollerblading. When I go up to, let's say, a double kink rail, it is the consequences for not performing the trick, or at least knowing how to fall really well, are serious. And so I then have to do a lot. I have to learn how to focus in such a hyper way, so focused that nothing else can enter into my mind. And that when I go to do this thing, I am committed. I'm not going to falter. I am for sure committed. And that when I am finished doing it, I'm okay, right? There's a lot that goes into mentally preparing, physically preparing to get a certain trick done. Now, what happens in that process? That process carries over to everything. The critical thinking, the seeing an impossible task and getting it done anyways, the creative approach to figuring out how to get it done, et cetera, et cetera. All of that carries over into everything else in my life. Not to mention, that made me a happy dude. Still, right now, at 35 years old, I don't know how I'm still doing it, but I don't have any of the excuses entering into my mind to not do it. It's unsafe, you're too old, blah, blah, blah. I don't allow that stuff in my mind. I just know that I need that for my mental health, for my mental stability, and because I want to be sharp again. And I realized kind of late in the game that those things like rollerblading and writing music, all that stuff was what made me really sharp and was what really made me good at problem solving, and is what really, like, it made me an interesting person, at least to me. It made me able to look at any situation or a problem or a business idea or creating a curriculum for a philosophy course. I mean, it all carried over into that. I mean, the benefits have just been coming and coming and coming since I started skating again. I'm getting sharp. I'm happier. I'm more charged. When I enter into an environment or a situation or a problem, I'm coming into it enthusiastically and passionately engaged with that thing. And there's nothing else that I've added to my life outside of skating this year. Now, I know that for a lot of people, this just isn't an option. So I'm not saying go rollerblade. I'm not saying go do that thing that maybe you're just not capable of doing right now. But I am saying there are things that are similar to what I got out of rollerblading that you could get too. You could play chess. You could read books. You could go hiking. You could go climbing. You could ride a mountain bike. I mean, if you need ideas, hit me up. We'll find you one, at least one. But you got to commit to it every day so that you're habituating your brain into being this thing that's not only able to do it, but is happy to do it. It's enthusiastically doing it. And it's got this weird skill set that it gains from being able to mute all the BS. Because again, the whole point of committing to that act every day is to habituate a different kind of thinking that gets you out of pandemic and politics. Pandemic and politics. Pandemic and politics. Pandemic. Stop that. That is going to force your thinking to be a certain way. You're going to have a feeling of dread. You're going to have just this kind of feeling of not liking anyone and feeling like everyone's against you, and pandemic and politics and pandemic and politics. I wear a mask. You don't wear a mask. Oh, this expert said this. This one said that. This aligns with my bias more than this does. That is a small little circle that we're going in, and it is creating a toxic, gross environment globally where people are just like stuck there thinking about nothing else. So I'm begging you to break this cycle, break the pattern, and at least once a day for an hour or more, please, have something that you love so much taking place that you can't think of or focus on anything else at all. That thing has your attention, so you have so much focus going on that you can't even possibly consider anything else. Your brain has a break then. It gets a break from all that crap. It gets a second to dive into something new, and the synapses and the pathways in your brain all of a sudden start rewiring, and you start to think of hopeful and idealistic things, and your virtues start to kind of spin out of control, and all of a sudden life's exciting again. And I'm serious, it's that powerful. And what it will do to your job, for your business, for you being an employee, for your family, for your relationships, everything gets better. But you have to commit to an act of joy every day. You've got to find a way to do it enough to where it becomes habituated and carries out into the other things in your life. Okay? So that's kind of my benediction there at the end. I usually give you something a little more to chew on there. If you need help, an idea, please let me know. We can find out a little bit about what you're doing, find out a little bit about what you've done maybe when you were a kid or in your early 20s or something. Let's just talk about it. If you find education to be something that you really like and get involved in, GCAS, I guess this is kind of the plug for them too. The Global Center for Advanced Studies, it's this cohort of people that have come together that are a little bit like me, and they're kind of weird, and we didn't do things traditionally, but we found our way to wherever we got to, and we still are enthusiastic, and we're still passionate about learning and just the world in general and what's going on, and we care about you. So please, you can involve yourself in the conversation by checking out gcas.ie. The IE is just Ireland. But just, you can try there, you can involve yourself in a number of different things, but my benediction to you is to make it happen, no matter what. Don't let any preconceived notion of you're doing it wrong, or it's not important, or no one's going to find value in it. Forget about all the naysayers. Forget about all the reasons that you might have not to commit to it. And just know that if you do, and when you do, a short time after, everything else that you thought was going to hurt because of you doing that thing will actually benefit from it. On that note, I hope you're doing well. I hope you're staying safe. I hope you give GCAS a look. And if you need anything at all, you can always reach out to me. Take care.
But I'm not worrying. You know why? Why?